Hi, welcome to the podcast. My name is Ronit Ghosh, and with my partner in Fintech crime, Gaurav Var, we are delighted to host this week's edition. And our special guest, zooming in from a long, long way away in Dubai, is Omar Mansur. Omar, welcome to the show.
Hi everyone. Good to see you guys again. Thank you for
It's
having
been,
me. Pleasure.
it's been 24 hours since you, Gaurav, and I were hanging out
I
in an
think
open air
less.
bar in Dubai,
I
right?
think I think it's less, and we don't talk about that.
No, we don't. Actually,
Perfect.
now
How's
we're
everyone
doing
today?
this at 11:11 on a Thursday or something. It was like less
Oh
than that,
wow.
yes.
Make a wish, everyone.
Make a wish. Make a
Correct.
wish. Omar, who are you? Why are you on our podcast?
I'm one of the co-founders of Codebase Technologies. What we basically do is we, by a very calculated accident, started a digital banking in a box tech platform that allows fintechs, banks, financial institutions, organizations that are established or looking to basically digitize, go to a one-stop shop sort of institution. So whether it
Hmm.
be banking as a service, turnkey, straight up implementations, etc., and so forth, along with a little sprinkle like sorbet of advisory in a nutshell.
So the core of what you do is banking as a service.
It's a new division that we basically have started working on for the past 18 months. But
Okay.
prior to that, it's digital banking and having a bank in a box platform.
Bank in a box. Got it. Got it. Got it. So explain this to our audience like they're 8-year-olds. What is a bank in a box?
Okay, so you've been to IKEA before, right? Everybody's been
I
to
try
IKEA.
not to. I try not to, but
So,
yeah.
so do I. Amazon's my best friend. you know so let's say you go to IKEA in the
Yeah.
one-off time that you basically have, or even if you visit their virtual store, so you see that they have these really nice exhibits, which is like, this is what your bedroom could look like, or this is what your living room could look like, right? So imagine Codebase as IKEA. I can fit out your entire house for you, decorate it for you the way you want it to look like. Or if you just want to buy that one table lamp in that exhibit, I can do that for you as well. Or if you basically want to add that and you want to lease that furniture, and strike and recycle it every 3 years, I can
Hmm.
do that as well for you.
When did Codebase Codebase Technologies, when did you start this journey? What was the kind of Eureka moment?
Actually, it was actually interesting. Rahil and myself and our other partner Rizwan. Prior to that, Rahil and myself worked in advisory. So we did a lot of work for governments, banks, both local, international, etc., and so forth. And we basically started getting a lot of inquiries by the banks that we worked with, and they said like, "Hey, we're doing digital banking. Can you help us do mobile channels and this and that?" And then we said like, "Hey, this is the time when Monzo and Revolut had started to come up, and this became like
Okay.
one of that wildfire
This is like what,
sensation."
2017, 2018?
This is actually even before that. This is 2015, 2016, actually, around
Oh,
that time.
okay.
That because we spent like a good year and a half, 2 years, working with these institutions on
Hmm.
how to because we're getting inquiries like crazy, and we're like, hey, let's do some research around this. This
Hmm.
is during a time we used to really look up to this one organization called 11FS that used to do advisory and tech at the same time.
Yeah.
But then now, as of today, now they only focus on advisory and not so much on the tech part.
Hmm.
And both of me and Rahil being inspired like crazy by Accenture, because of the stuff that they did, we said, hey, we can do this. We're bankers.
Yeah.
We understand banking. And
Hmm.
usual banking, sort like, no offense to all my peers and competitors, but usual banking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
Why
like,
did it
and from a
suck?
from
Why
a
did it
tech
suck? What
perspective,
sucks?
the interface, like, it's so boring. You know what I mean? You open up your system and you look at it, and it looks like you're back in Windows 95. You know what I mean? It's like, where's Prince of Persia? The 8-bit version of it on this. Um, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it does the job,
Windows
but then
95, that's pretty advanced stuff, my friend.
I know. Tell me
I
about it.
mean,
It's like
yeah,
my
that's like
computer had to.
1990s. You should be happy for your bank's giving you that.
I should be. But then, like, we sort of try to cut them some slack and be like, look, it works, it does the
Yeah, it
job, and
works.
it does it
Yeah,
well. But the thing
yeah.
is, a lot of people would get inconvenience and they'd dislike it, and they'd come up to us and say, hey,
Mm.
if you're doing advisory, can you please just talk to our vendor or our tech provider or our in-house tech, and just can you please ask them to make this less boring? You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's when we had a light bulb idea, and we're like, look, we own some shares in a tech company in Pakistan that actually has its own core banking system. And core banking is what was important. Everything else was built around it. So Rahil and myself said, you know what, let's take this over and just do the whole thing ourselves. You know what I mean? Tell them, like, I'll give you the advisory because I know how
Mm.
to fix your problem, and I'll give you the exact thing that you need as well.
Mm.
And then lo and behold, we just woke up one day and we're like, what the hell have we done? We wanted to sell off at 40 people. Now we're like, Alhamdulillah, 400 plus. And now
Wow.
we can't
100.
run away anymore. No, no. It's been an amazing journey. And the thing is, the more people we've added onto our
Yeah.
team, because we started as a five-man operation like in
Mm.
2017.
When you started in 2017, 5 people.
Exactly. Exactly. Five, six people. The sixth one was sort of like on contract, to give or take.
Mm.
I won't say who, I'm sure if he sees this, I will, who it was. Could have been like the sixth, but you're
And when
a
you
half,
set up,
five and a half.
this is a little bit after 11FS is set up in London, and they're doing as well advisory, consulting, and doing what they used to call Foundry at the time, their kind of banking in a box platform. With no
Exactly.
disrespect to my friends who are still at 11FS and who were previously at 11FS, as you said, they're like 100-person outfit. You're 400.
No, but the thing with us is we also provide a lot of service aftermarket services as well, in the sense like support services, etc., and so forth.
Right.
And
So you don't just
plus,
go in and tell them this is how you should do it. Here's a PowerPoint. You help them build it and then run
yes,
it.
yes, we help them build it. We help them run it. Myself, Rahil, some of our other senior members, we do also take
Hmm.
on with every digital bank or every organization we do work with in that space as well. We do take advisory positions to their board, to their C level as well, to basically help them in their not only their business side of things as well,
Hmm.
but Codebase is also proud to act as an R&D tech arm for some of these banks as well. So
Oh,
the
wow.
one example was we bought like true digital banking to Jordan as well with Blink Bank,
Hmm.
and we were the first digital bank to go live in Bahrain as well with Jazeel. And the good thing about this whole thing is, like, with 11FS, they were the inspiration. They sort of set the guidelines, and this is how you should be a successful tech outfit, where you should be the doctor who you prescribe the medicine as well,
Hmm.
and you manufacture that medicine as well, so you tend to believe it, you know so it's more impactful, you know what I mean, and you understand your client's business better.
Yeah.
And 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 the best part is, a lot of tech vendors will be like, look, I don't care, I'm getting paid,
Yeah.
do what you got to do. You want me to paint your core banking purple? Fine, sure. I'll give it nice
Yeah.
little polka dots. You want to be a unicorn? I'll buy you an actual unicorn. But they don't see
Yeah.
that this is not healthy from a business standpoint, a tech standpoint, R&D standpoint, business standpoint, long-term projection standpoint. It is not healthy. So what we basically would do is, if they come up to us with ideas where they say that, hey, I wanted to do like this, and we don't agree with that idea because we think that it's not the right thing to do, we give them the pros and cons of it, but we tell
Hmm.
them, no, we're not going to do this. But if they insist, and we're like, okay, look, we've got no choice. But at least we're happy to say that our clients have been amazing, that and partners, they've listened to us. Say, don't do that. Why wouldn't you want to do that? It's like, trust me. It's like you mess around and you find out, that little chart. The more you mess around, the more you find out. So you've got like a more executive version of that.
So you have a mess of, let's call it mess around rather than the other version. So you have a mess around and find out chart, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. But which we sometimes just whip it out, when we need to really accent on what could go wrong. And they're like, how do you know this? I'm like, we've done this like 9 times. Trust me, we know what
Hmm.
we're doing. They say the 10th time's a charm, but we don't want you to be the ones that, be the 10th version of it. So that's why, and honestly, like, if everybody asks me, is it the tech that makes it a bank successful? Is it the product that makes it
Hmm.
successful? Honestly, it's not. It's not. And this is what has been lacking. And if you look at all the successful digital banks in the world, like your Judo Bank, your Tonic, not Tonic, not Tonic, Judo Bank. I mean, sure, Tonic as well. Um, Tinkoff in Russia as well. Digital bank, whatever's going on in Russia, but the bank itself is successful because we've
Yeah,
always
agreed.
said that you start off with an MVP product whenever you launch a digital bank, but at the same time, it has to be a lending product because as an institution, that's how you make money, and you need to embrace that. You will not make money from
Mm,
cool little bells and whistles, open banking, all the other stuff like that. That's nice. It's all nice to have. But if you built a
yeah.
Ferrari and you did not include uh, a socket where you put petrol in, you left with something really beautiful, high performance, but you just don't know where you put the fuel in. And
Mm,
that is your fuel. The A lot of people basically go with gimmickry, and that's something
mm,
that we realized. And all the banks that basically ended up going in the negatives, that very heavily reliant on investor money.
mm,
Those banks were the ones that started off with your standard CASA products, not even a single lending product. Go with credit card as a lending product.
mm,
So we focused a lot on working with them and saying, like, first decide what you want to do, and then let's build it out. Don't just buy stuff for the sake of buying stuff. A lot of people will basically work with tech vendors if they know that you're a well-known name, in the market.
mm.
And just because you're well-known doesn't mean that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I won't take any names, but there's tech companies out there that basically are running on investor money, have like a very high rating on Crunchbase, like, high rank, like second or third or something like that,
Mm,
but they're not profit generating.
mm,
And out of 10 implementations, five are successful, five are not successful.
mm,
Whereas I literally go up to my clients and I tell them, don't pay me until you go live with your MVP. So they're like, oh, you're confident in that? I'm like, yes, because I have 100% implementation rate. I might
mm,
be a couple of months late or I will be late, but I will make sure you go live. And I will not accept a cent more than what I have basically done. That's why I worked on it. Like it's like uh, a lot of these guys will do time and material. That's one of our secret to our success. Like, we don't do time and material until or unless it's something very specific after go live. But when it comes to helping them realize their ROI
mm,
and them basically reporting to their board or their stakeholders, like, guys, look, we paid $1 million, for example, for this thing, but we still haven't gone live. Oh, but it's been 6 months. Are you paying them more? No, no, no. They have not even asked for a single amount of money after that 1 million. And then when
mm.
we go live and then they want support services or additional advisory or something like that, then we basically put that in. So it's kind of like the business equivalent of Russian roulette with the semi-automatic.
I do know how to unpack that last comment, but while I work that out, I'm going to get Gaurav to jump in and grill you on building the business and things like that. While I try to get my
Perfect.
head around Russian roulette with a
Absolutely.
semi-automatic. Gaurav, over to you, man.
Thank you, Ronit. Omar, pleasure to have you on this morning with us.
Likewise, my friend.
Beautiful
Likewise.
day. The weather's still good. We've heard about, how you started your journey and where you are now. Really want to start on the product side of the business. You talk about bank in a box. It's a very, very, very huge statement to make
Hmm.
because there are
Hmm.
so many different types of banks. There are so many different elements that go into the core construction of a bank, and there are so many elements of the bank that need to be reworked from what you talked about as a boring interface or a not so well constructed management
Right.
tool. There's so many parts to this. So first of all, what I want to ask you is when you say you've got a platform and you've got the ability to do advisory for a bank in a box, essentially. What kind of banks are we talking about?
Everyone, all the banks. Funny
Every,
enough,
so if we can talk about a cooperative bank, we can talk about a retail bank, we can talk about
correct.
startup bank. You deal with literally every single type of bank.
All to date, almost yes, from the use cases that we have basically come across. So, just to elaborate even more on that, is like you have your traditional digital banks like your Wio, Zand Bank, etc., and so forth. Then you have your traditional banks that want to have digital windows like your Live and Jazeel. And then you have your digital banks that basically are co-owned under the same banking license, which is Blink Bank, which is Capital Bank, and then Blink Bank. And then you have other banks that are cooperative banks that are more focused on cooperations and agriculture, etc., and so forth. And then you have other banks that are that are neo banks per se, and um, the neo banking propositions, like they have like one product and they focus on that and they don't want to go beyond that as well. It's like a wallet on steroids. Then you have institutions that have wallets that are in process of getting their license, but they're doing micro lending off the back of someone else. And then when they get their license, they want to offshoot it into something that's like a pseudo neobank. You know what I mean? So we've had a lot of use cases like this. So from a product perspective, like I said, we started off with a core banking system. Now, the way we basically built our core banking system is that we wanted to do a one size fits all sort of thing as well. Whether you're a cooperative bank, whether you're a commercial bank, you're an SME bank, wholesale bank, depending on what you basically need, your general ledger will still look the same. You'll have your debits, you'll have your credits. You'll still need something that's robust enough to handle transactions. Now, the only difference between all of these institutions is the frequency of transactions.
Okay.
It's like a retail bank will have transactions going nuts, you know what I mean? Whereas a agriculture bank will basically have a farmer show up once a week, you know what I mean, to basically get some form of financing for either heavy machinery or crops, etc., and so forth. And then you'll have other SMEs that will basically do like supply chain financing, you know what I mean, or invoice discounting, etc., and so forth. So the frequency is different. So you need a core banking system that has all those components to to accommodate all of these sort of instances or these situations or use cases, but you just basically need to refine the highway. You know what I mean? It's like, do you need 8 lanes, 3 lanes, 6 lanes? And that's where the APIs come in. So when we re-engineered our core banking system, we took about a good couple of years to re-engineer it, you know, and bring it up to like a latest stack. We made it completely microservice driven, containerized, etc., and so forth. We wanted to be able to work on both on-prem, cloud, hybrid, because we understood from a regulation perspective as well, you could have the best of the best, but it kind of doesn't make sense if you can't, like, you know, adhere to the regulations. So we because a lot of them will have I need my data or like some portion of it to be in country on soil, but you can process this, like, you know, in Germany, wherever the cloud is, you know. So we had to we had to engineer it in such a way that from a network infra perspective we could handle all of that. Then what we did was we created our own integration layer as well, our API factory as well. Now what this does is not only does it house hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of APIs, and is one of the key components as well that we're very proud of to say that we have the highest amount of banking grade APIs in the Arab world or
Wow.
parts parts of Asia, is because we work with so many uh, of our clients and so many of our third party ecosystem partners that we basically integrated their APIs regionally specific as well. And today we can operate in 13 countries by just deploying our stack and having those connectors for third party systems. So if I was to work in Saudi, I already have the entire Saudi third party government ecosystem, from your credit bureau to your
Wow.
EKYC verification, your government IDs, etc., and so forth, already out of the box. Core banking processes, you know, from transaction management, loan origination, loan history, to the point where even open banking and they're all open API. So if we want to basically work with any other third party system, we have no issues, and at the same time, open banking compliant as well.
So you're building product over a period of years. It's almost been 7 years now, right? But when you look at it from a business perspective as a startup, which effectively you
Mhm.
were at some point, I think you've surpassed that into beyond the startup into a more mature phase quite clearly from everything you've told us about what you've built and client roster that you have and where you're expanding to. But I just want to try and look at your business as you've built it out in phases, if possible, amongst the people who are listening to the conversation, right? Because what I really want to get into is the the journey ahead of mapping of building a product that makes the service better because you think if you can make it better or offer a better service or a piece of technology. The
Mm,
monetization aspect of it only follows after you've built it, right? So let's start with phase
definitely.
one of
Yeah.
what you built. You talked about you building a core banking proposition, you were doing a number of other things. That took a couple of years, plus you're building APIs plus. Now just want to take a pause quickly and look at what was the first phase that you built and then you went out to market and tested. And did you know, what was the reaction there for your first client? Was it who are you? You don't have any client references, go away. Or was it, listen, you have the experience. Yes, this is something that we need, but we can't onboard you because the onboarding cycle takes so long for corporate institutions and regulated frameworks like banks. Take us through that initial first phase journey of what you were building back at that time, what that experience was like. So what was the
Perfect.
first product and who was the first customer?
Okay. So I need you guys to strap in because this is going to be a fun one. By the way. So originally when we had our old stack of our core banking system before Rahil and I basically took over the business arm of Codebase and the entire corporate sort of helm. So we had clients in Pakistan and we had like the military banks like Askari Bank. We had National Bank of Pakistan as well that was using our core banking system. We had about good 5 6 like banks, not digital banks, traditional core banking, etc. and so forth. Nothing as exciting on the digital banking side, right? And then everything went on a hiatus. And one of the reasons was that, and I hope that my team that's watching this does not give me shit after this. I'm sorry, I don't think I'm supposed to say that. So we basically created that core banking system in such a way that it would not break down. So, like, we did not take maintenance contracts because we didn't need to, because the system would not break down. Yes, it was a thing. We were the WinRAR of banking. You paid once and that's it. You don't need to worry about updates or anything. It just does the job and does it really well. To
Wow.
date, we still have some of our modules still running from back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? That was
Oh,
done by
10,
the
15 years.
yeah, by the older outfit, right? By the predecessor team. You know what I mean? It's still running because it was just architected and built so well at that time. And then when we went into the banking journey, now let's talk about from scratch on digital banking. We're not going to talk about the legacy stuff, right? So we worked with one of our partners to get to Bahrain and work on the first digital banking proposition in Bahrain. And we were told by the banks, the CEO of that bank was like, listen, the XYZ competitor has had 2 years to work on this, and they have a budget of $200 million that they're going to basically bring in at that time because they're going to put in all these newfangled like machines in this digital branch, which is an actual physical branch that's like in a mall, with like actual machines. I'm like, that's not digital, but sure, whatever makes you happy. And then he comes up to us and says, like, I don't have any budget for you, but I'll give you this project to use our name if you can pull this off in 3.5 months. And I'm like, they have a 2 year head start. And you know what we did? We did it. We did it. I don't know how. And then afterwards, he came up to my, when he was doing the launch and everything like that, when we gotten our first couple of pilot customers and everything like that. And then he looked at us and he's like, I have not heard of you guys before. Why not? So my response was, that's because all our budget goes into R&D and not marketing. That's why you have not heard of us. Right. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, we're that one guy who has that garage that's not Gargash Motors or anything like that. We've got that one little garage, that when we fix your car, it remains fixed. We're those guys. And then he basically gave us all this other stuff. And funny enough, being the fact that core banking was our bread and butter, this proposition was not with core banking. It was just channels and an integration layer, which we were talking about, the API, the digital enablement API layer. And the funny part about this project was that the core banking was so old. It was written in a language I've probably only read on my dad's textbooks back when I was in Oman, like 15, no, 20, 23 years ago. Like some language, and we're like, how are we going to make this core banking system work? It doesn't even have a double entry ledger, it's got a single entry. I didn't even know a single entry thing was possible. But like somehow, like Rahil, myself, our team that was there at the time, like the 5 6 guys that were there with us, we somehow just put our heads together, figured it out, and lo and behold, uh, created the first digital bank in Bahrain and went live with that on our stack completely. And it
Wow.
was still far cutting edge to the point where the competitor that came out went out of business, and now that platform ended up inspiring other banks like Ela. Ela was the one that was inspired by them, and we were the first bank to do cross-border onboarding. So you could be an Omani national, never having stepped foot in Bahrain, and you can open a bank account in
Wow.
Bahrain. We were the first ones to allow various products being given to cross-border GCC nationals as well. So as an Omani who's never stepped foot in Bahrain, as long as he has an account, he can apply for financing. Go figure. You know, we work with central bank. We literally went with their compliance teams, holding hands to central bank to present not only the onboarding framework and protocol, but at the same time, like the overall proposition for this bank as well.
So you started here, right? You've got your break in, you've jumped at the opportunity, you're starting to monetize. Is Codebase profitable today?
Yes,
Okay,
we are. Sorry.
so you're already profitable today in building out a number of clients and services, right? So, I mean, was there a point at which there was any scary moments beyond this first phase, where
100%.
serendipity plus effort combined gave you your first break? Were there any moments where in your building product life cycle, because building product takes a lot of time at such a massive institutional level, right? It really is. You have to build a lot, and then you have to take it to market, and hopefully someone's going to buy it, or and continually to buy it, and a lot of people are going to buy it, hopefully.
Right.
So, what point did you reach in your product building cycle where maybe there was a moment of going, "Wow, no one's taking our product," or maybe we need to build something else? Did you have these sorts of moments in your?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Just because everything is fun, you see a big smile on my face doesn't mean it's out of happiness as well. Sometimes it's delusions of grandeur, coming in. No, I was kidding. No, no. No. So we've had a lot of scary moments because one, we're not investor funded from day
Oh
one.
wow, you don't have
We have
any
never,
investment.
we have been revenue and profit generating since day one. And
No,
when Raheel,
You're completely
exactly,
bootstrapped?
yes.
no,
Completely
wow,
Okay,
bootstrapped.
I can give you a copy of my books as well. If you have friends in
wow,
Wow.
KPMG, you can ask them for that.
wow.
They would do the
So you were profitable from day one?
mhm.
Wow. Year
Like in the
one.
sense we kept our costs low. At the same time, we still keep our costs low in the sense from our side, like we usually from what we've seen, from what myself, Raheel, and what we've seen, we've definitely been privileged and we're grateful enough to be approached by a lot of very, very well-known organizations that have said, why don't you come on and join us C-level of whatever, this and this. And we're like, okay, cool. You're a cool startup and, you're very well known, and then they give you this ridiculous salary, you know what I mean? And you're like, but this feels unreal, you know what I mean? But then you know what the problem with that ridiculous salary is? How long will you sustain me on that salary if I do not make a deliverable as per your expectation? 3 months, 6 months? Is that your runway? What we basically did was we said that I need, and Raheel and myself, we made this decision. We said, look, it's not like we're cheap. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that as an organization that our commercials are cheap. They're competitive, but they're enough to basically make sure that the teams that are under us, their families, they're taken care of. Everybody has a roof over their head. Everybody has the opportunity to have a good time, a vacation, etc., and so forth. Whatever they want to do, you know what I mean. And the same goes for myself and the other co-founders and the other like shareholders.
I
Because
want to pull back to product for 1 second because
mm,
we've done the initial part of your building days. We've established that there are misfires. You've experienced
mhm,
misfires in
mhm,
your journey, but
mhm,
you've been sustaining the business to be able to work through those journeys and deliverables.
yeah,
Now you're getting into what is a mature business effectively, 7 years to 10 years to 15 years. You're getting into that stage where you no longer a startup, you're a mature business, you're growing. Two things which happen in that cycle of a business evolution from a technology point of view is one is competition building to catch up with you, perhaps just because they're throwing money at you, or perhaps they have a bigger exposure and they've been there longer than you, right? Whichever framework you look at it, there's competition or perceived competition, right? I'd like to understand from your side, are you at that stage now where perhaps what Codebase was doing 7 years ago was extremely cutting edge, but today what Codebase is doing, let's say, is because of competition and the attractiveness of this segment and the adoption of this segment, the uptake of this segment is perhaps 20 to 40% cutting edge and 60% competing on what is almost now a standardized, commoditized product in this industry. I know it's very tough to understand it from that perspective, but that's one part. And then the second part I'd love to understand is what's next for Codebase, right? In terms of not only your product lifecycle, but are you going to expand geographically, or is there so much work to do in this region, you'll stay where you are right now? So those are two questions I'd love to understand. And if you can communicate that to our listeners, that would be fantastic.
So this is a very interesting question that you basically put up. And as I was going to tell you how we basically did our R&D. So since everything is bootstrapped, right, from what we basically do and the teams are there, the people that work for us are genuinely curious as well. So while we're doing a project for a client, for example, we'll get a light bulb idea and saying, hey, I know how to make this a little bit more efficient. Go code something over a week and then say, hey, let me just try this out and see if this works. And it works, and then it becomes a part of the product. And then it just basically grows like that. And our oh crap moments were like when we basically go up to a client, and sometimes the clients would be like, I'll pay you after 6 months. You know what I mean? I don't have the budget right now. And we're like, look, we still need to make our books. You know what I mean? And still still at least keep a positive EBITDA, So that. Now, in terms of your question about the 60-40 sort of thing, where 40% is cutting at 60, from a Codebase perspective, as of right now, from the conversations I've had with a lot of my uh, potential clients, etc., and so forth, in terms of why they're talking to us, who else have they talked to, why are you even talking to me if you're talking to those guys? Flip that number around. So we're 60% cutting edge from what they've told us that they want from us, that the big guys that we are looking up to, are not offering to them. And the other 40% is what everyone's sort of caught up to. Now, a lot of this doesn't boils down into um, from a big company perspective, is the bigger you basically get, and you could be 1,000 people in that company, there's always one guy who is thinking outside the box. We are fortunate enough to have more than one person thinking outside the box. And what happens is when that one person does something, and it's a mindset. It's got nothing to do with tech, education, nothing. It's all about mindset. You'll always have someone saying that, why should I do it? You know what I mean? Oh, this guy came up with this idea. Why should I do it? You know what I mean? Why should I put an effort into this? Why should I do that, etc., and so forth? And that's what kills business. Personally speaking, from what I've seen, ego kills business. I have gotten ideas. Rahil and myself have gotten ideas. Rizwan, who handles our entire tech kitchen, out of India and Pakistan and everyone. We've had ideas from interns, literally interns. They've come up to us with an idea, and I've said, okay, I like your idea. In theory, it works. Show me how to do it. If you can show me how to do it, done. And they get that accolade right there and then, that we literally would hold something on a company where I think, guys, wow, this guy, he's been with us for 3 months. He just read something on like TechCrunch or whatever. And I'll give you best example. A piece of code. He didn't know what to do with this, but it did something very similar. It was like sort of a small automation thing. He put it into Chat GPT. Can you please refine this? Can you please refine this code? Any other person would be like, you're telling me that you use this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I've been coding for 15 years, what can you teach me or whatever, this and that. And I'm like, with us, he was okay, cool, show it to us. You know what I mean? I mean, we don't know what the hell it does. You know what I mean? But like, let's see what it does. And it does the job. It worked great.
Wow, no
It
way.
worked fantastic.
You're
And
kidding.
we're like, exactly. So on our offices, we have this thing. If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Seriously.
That's a
Every,
t-shirt. That's a run it. We got to set up CFTE t-shirt slogans from all our guests, I think.
and,
We don't have too many slogans from this episode.
It looked like a tattoo sleeve.
It would be like, I mean, Omar's just dropping truth bombs left, right, and center here.
you should see our interview process. You should see our interview process.
Tell
So
us your interview process.
the
Yeah,
last person, the last person that I interviewed about a while back, actually, he looked at me and he goes, I see guitars in your background. Are you a guitar? I'm like, yeah, I used to play like back in the day, like, all the other stuff. And then he's like, oh, cool. Okay, fine. I like Lamb of God. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I love Lamb of God.
Oh, wow, no way.
And then he started putting up all these, like, he's like, are you a Judas Priest fan? Metallica, this, and I'm like, hired. Because because Rahil and myself, we are very strong believers that attitude and personal skills, personality is more important than anything else. You can teach anyone anything. We have one of our senior analysts right now that does work like on a very granular level, very technical stuff to the point where even I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching this. I don't know what this is. She started her career with us and she had graduated with a master's in English and literature. So she was a literature student.
Wow.
And today she's running business analysis for 5 banks simultaneously.
Wow.
Her friend who joined us as well as a recommendation came from who was professionally a chemical engineer. And now she does our entire API management.
Now, Omar, we're going to be running out of time
Mm-hmm.
any moment here. So just want to go to that next question, and then I want to hand back to Ronit. So the next question is, in your build, in your product lifecycle, the journey for you and your code base family, right? What's next? Is it expansion within this region because there's so much left to do? Or is it time to move out into another geography? What is it? What are you looking at now?
Oh
Where's
my
the next?
God, like this is such a loaded question. So I'm gonna time myself and give myself exactly 4.5 minutes to answer this, or
Less,
less,
less, four and
or
a half
less.
minutes or less.
So there's opportunity in this region is insane because if you look at your traditional banks right now, your FABs, your whatever, this and that. I'm sorry, I should not be taking names. They are there's insane opportunity because everything's so legacy. It's so like uh, it's it's cutting edge, but it's not set up properly. You know what I mean? And then un to fix it up and everything like that, you might as well just buy a new system.
So let's
So
yeah, so
that's
let's layer that up for the listeners on the call,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Technology in this region is not exclusive from being impacted from historical builds, building on top of each other layer by layer. As
Yes,
technology has evolved in critical infrastructure systems from core regulated institutions, they build layer upon layer upon layer. But as time goes on, each of those layers becomes complex and some of them become obsolete and irrelevant in their life cycle. And because
exactly.
the stack is a 30-year stack or a 25-year stack, and these systems and components talk to each other, what we're looking at is a very sophisticated Frankenstein that's working together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So today, given that the way infrastructure talks to each other, if we can start from a fresh page and have those connectivity points
Easier.
from a communication module internally, externally communicate to each other, it's always a better approach. So what you're saying is the capability for people to move into a space from complete legacy to completely new infrastructure without any hangover or pain points is the real opportunity. Is that correct?
That's one. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Two, two. It's not just this region. It's the entire GCC. And there's really cool tech out there. The problem is the big guys, the old money, as I like to call it, is not giving them the opportunity, unfortunately.
Now go through that.
So,
Unpack that a bit more, please.
Yeah.
okay. So imagine
Without
I'm
naming names, who's the old money?
so your your OG banks, you know what I mean? They're like
OG
uh,
banks. So
exactly,
you need to show up from like what? You need to show up from Europe or the US to be taken seriously by these
probably.
OG banks.
Yes. Yes, that's number one. And plus it doesn't matter how amazing your product is, but if your market presence is amazing, that's all that matters. You know how many banks will overlook so many amazing tech platforms just because you're not on Gartner? And Gartner charges you amount of money to be on their report. So you're telling me that if I basically buy this exclusive tech version of the Capital Club's membership, then I'm allowed to basically have access to all of these guys?
It's a tech version of Arts
It
Club.
is.
Put your jacket on, my
Wow, that
friend.
just happened. That just happened. I'm using that.
It is.
I'm so
I'm
using
sorry. It is what it is. I'm
No,
speak
no, it
because
is.
I alongside my team, I'm on the ground as well. I'm on the floor with them as well, and I see these conversations where they go like, "This is the second coming of Christ when it comes to digital banking." You know what I mean? Why? So I'm like, that's
Sorry,
amazing.
sorry.
That it's
What is the second coming of Christ here?
according to what people have reviewed our systems and told us, from what we're
Oh, your
capable of doing when they,
systems.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
And I'm like, okay, great. So where do I sign? Where do we sign? Let's start, I'll make it
Yeah,
commercially palatable for you.
yeah.
And you know what they say? Oh, give us like a couple of days and take your time. It's a big commitment. It's a 10-year sort of conversation we'll be getting into after 3 days, but you're not on Gartner, are you? So those were one of those, oh my God, oh crap moments, by the way.
Hmm.
Gartner, $50,000 cripples me from becoming a decacorn if I want to. Because I don't know how many projects I would have had right now had I'd been on Gartner. I'm sorry,
Just write.
nothing against the guys from Gartner.
So why
Gartner
just
is
write the
awesome
$50,000 check and become a decacorn?
Do it.
because principle.
Principles.
This is not how this works. Just because, for example, augmentin is a medicine that everyone says is
Yeah,
amazing on advertisements doesn't mean it's good for you. Is it
yeah.
actually good for you or not? Or is it because doctors are getting paid to basically tell you it's good for you? There's a
Now that's a
difference.
different podcast. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Pharmaceutical is not. We're not going to touch pharmaceutical industry here. We're going to stick to fintech.
And
So,
you know what the best
but
part is?
what?
Do you know what the best part is? All those guys that were on Gartner, that those guys picked over us. 1 year, 6 months later, they came back to us and said, "Yo, listen, we messed up. Is the offer still on the table?"
There you go. Makes it sweeter.
Commercial
But you
value is
got
low,
that.
but I still get the logo eventually at some point in my life.
So you're saying there's still a lot of opportunity in this region and a lot of
Oh,
work.
it's insane opportunity. Like the world is your oyster. Just don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. Be focused, but always have a plan A, B, and C. That's it. Never go with plan A or B. Go with the plan A, B, C.
Ronit, back to you, brother. Thanks, Omar.
My pleasure.
Just
I'll
a
see you
few
soon.
things to wrap up. You said you didn't take any VC funding from the region or anywhere in the world. If you had, how different a company would you be?
If I had taken VC funding, one, myself and my co-founders would not get the privilege to work with our teams on the floor because we'd be busy making sure that the VC's money is taken well care of in terms of constant reporting.
Hmm.
Second, one of the other, I mean, we are open to VC funding. It's just that we're really bad at it. As much, which is the honest truth. It's like, hi, it's like you'd show up, I have this amazing kick-ass pitch deck, whatever. I'd show up and be like, hi, can I have money? That's my approach, you know? So, um, so that's one in terms of how different we would be. Well, what we started to do was like myself, Rahil, we both sort of took whatever the dividends that we were basically getting, and then we had a collective decision among all the other shareholders saying that why don't we repump this money and grow our SaaS business?
Hmm.
That way, I don't need to park it and wait for VC funding.
Hmm.
I can grow this simultaneously, and when VC funding comes, then we'll compensate ourselves on the money we've put into that, or we'll just basically add that to our valuation as well. Now, in terms of VC funding, how different we would be? I mean, look, we're already in 13 different countries. We've already grown from such a small amount, and we're grateful enough to have that opportunity to be who we are today, whilst still maintaining a somewhat positive EBITDA. You know what I mean? It's not something easy to do. It's not easy to do.
Hmm.
And in terms of VC funding, what we'd have, I'd be able to take on more projects because I've now started to decline projects because I don't have the bandwidth anymore. If I had VC funding, I'd have much, much more bigger logos. I'd actually swallow my pride alongside everyone else's, and then we'd go on Gartner or Forrester at least. You know what I mean?
Do it, brother. Do it.
So that's one
You
of the things.
you're based in your team and your leadership team and you're based in Dubai, right?
No, I'm based in Dubai. The rest of the leadership basically is either in Pakistan or London or Bahrain.
Okay.
So it
So
depends
it's
because
very
they just like,
distributed.
yes.
And
So
then
what
the developers, the tech people are based in where? India, Pakistan?
in Pakistan, India, some in Europe, and
Hmm.
some in Kuala Lumpur and APAC as well.
So
And
it's a very
some.
distributed team.
So one of our key successes was that instead of making capital investments into renting out large office spaces and keeping everyone in the same place and everything. Now, don't get me wrong, that has its own benefits as well.
Yeah.
We expanded like crazy during the pandemic because that's when we had the ability to work from home. And a lot of people
Mm,
said that to date, they still like working from home as
mm,
long as they have a stable internet connection. We're like, look, I don't mind it as long as you can you get your work done. So what we've done is our core R&D teams are close to
mm,
us, and our product and business teams are close to us as well. Whereas the ones that are capable of working independently, etc., and so forth, they're in other places. But now what we started to do is it's not like one person in one country. We've got like 20 people in one country, 30 people in one country, etc. And so they have their teams, So we want to maintain a work from home sort of thing, but make it dynamic and hybrid by saying that you still have colleagues and peers where you are, so you can have the best of both worlds, while from a cost perspective, it just helps us to take whatever we've saved and put it more into growing the business and, cultivating it to hopefully be someday what it can be that we envision.
mm. And looking ahead 5 years from now, how do you see the shape of your business, the shape of the financial services industry in this region or wherever you'll be operating? Or are you just touring with your heavy metal band in 5 years' time?
No, no, no. I plan to basically open a bar in Thailand, in the next 2 years. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen in the next five. I mean, yeah, and the touring part definitely is gonna happen. But who says that I don't do that on the side? I carry my laptop with me every time I'm at the venue.
Is that right?
Is it
Remote
real? I
working
wear a
has
black
I've
arrived.
heard of we've heard of
Remote
work from
founding,
home,
remote
but you work
CEO.
from WFT, right?
everywhere,
Not
everywhere.
WTF, WFT, work from toll,
WFA,
work
work
from
from
I
home.
toll.
like, yeah, and the both, it's
These two
WFT
just
and then
speak
WTF.
themselves. I think we're in the
It
wrong
results
business,
in
bro.
WTF.
Yeah, WTF, yeah, WFT. So where do we see you? Where's your next gig? How do we
I'm not. I'm actually going to be releasing some stuff on Spotify soon. In terms of touring gig, not anytime soon, but we do have some stuff that we're planning this year, and
Mhm.
definitely you guys will get the VVIP passes. You know what I mean? The
The velvet
the
rope will be
Moet,
lifted?
yeah, exactly. The Moet Shandon at a metal gig. You know what I mean? Will be available to everyone. Um,
No, no, the Moy is
uh,
no good. Garib only drinks Ruina.
I have no idea what that is. I'm
Thanks,
OG.
Ronan. Thank you for educating our listeners.
No, so in terms of where we see the financial industry in the next 5 years, if it
Mm,
continues on the same trend, in
yeah.
terms of not giving the just the non-Gartner guys a shot, if it continues the way it is, they'll lose
Mm,
out on a lot of opportunities. From a tech perspective, the financial industry is miles behind against what everybody else is doing. I mean, for
mm,
God's sakes, even the payment industry is miles ahead of what the banking industry is doing right now from a
mm,
tech perspective in terms of the technology, e-commerce, everything is miles ahead. So they have a lot of catching up to do. But look on the bright side, it's on a good thing. This SVB thing that just happened right now put the fear of God in everyone right now. So a lot of the banks will be like, oh, should we invest in a digital bank? Should we not invest in a digital bank? Do we want something like SVB? But they only skim the surface. They don't realize that it was not the tech that failed them. It was something else. It's a separate
balance sheet.
conversation.
Yeah,
It's a separate conversation.
yeah.
That's one. And in terms of growth, what our plan is, and hopefully we expect it in the next 5 years for it to be adopted as well, is everything goes on SaaS. Everything goes on SaaS. The word capital investment into technology and technology innovations is going to be hopefully out. It's all going to be subscription based.
Mm. So on that note, Omar, let's pull this session to a close. The future is SaaS based. The future is you running a bar in Thailand and being on tour while this business just goes from strength to strength. Fingers crossed. Look
Hopefully,
forward to the journey, and Gaurav and I look
hopefully,
forward to tickets to the next gig.
hopefully. Perfect. No, definitely. Once that happens, it's going to happen. We'll make that happen. If not, even if it's a
Let's make it
private gig at
happen.
home, even if it's a private gig at home, it'll happen.
Work from
But
tour. Let's do it.
perfect.
Thanks so
Gentlemen,
much,
thank you
Ronan.
so much. Thank you so much for this. This was actually one of the most fun conversations I've had, especially while keeping it work centric as well, ever.
We kept it
But
work focused, right?
it's not
Kept
the
it
top.
clean.
It's not the topic. It's the company that makes it special. Thank you so
Very
much.
true, Rana.
See you soon, Omar. Thank you.
Perfect. I see you guys soon. Bye bye.
Take care.